Hey guys, Evan Ork here, and today we're going to be doing a review on the Playmates King Kong figure. Now, if you last remembered in my review, I believe that when I was reviewing the Ultraman King Spark Doll, or Bandai figure that is, I stated that I didn't have any more figures to review until I realized that I had a few late Christmas presents in the mail, and I completely forgot about them. Likewise this, and one other thing, which I think will at least be the last review if I get it wrong, unless I get it wrong again, and that last review until I make my Darth Vader model kit will come out next Monday. But this being the first out of the two things I have to review next, is the Playmates Kong figure. Now, I know I'm quite late to this, of course. I'm usually late when it comes to getting new figures because that's just how I am. I'm never really the kind of guy that's in a rush to pre-order or anything like that. I still got this around January. I pushed it back because of the Christmas stuff, and since this was a late Christmas gift, it would, of course, be the thing to review last, or one of the things to review last. But first things first, if I were to say something that I like about this figure, like my overall pro, it would probably have to be the articulation on this guy. Now, the articulation on this figure is surprisingly quite good. It's way above average in my opinion, and I really do like it. For some reason, I just feel like it stands out because of how different it is when it comes to Bandais. I mean, you have much more articulation when we all know Bandais are better than Playmates, but in this case, I got to give it to Playmates. They kind of beat Bandai at their own game. I mean, I'm sure the upcoming King Kong Bandai figure coming out for GVK isn't going to be as good as this, and I say that because the articulation on this is much more different. You have a joint here, joints with the actual arms themselves. The hands themselves. You have feet here, legs, head. So I'd like to say that it has a good, I don't know, again, I'm guessing. I'm not going to really count all of them, but maybe around 10 joints, a little bit more than 10 joints around that area. And of course, for a Playmates figure, which, like I said, many people like to say Bandai is better, and which I agree, but in this case, I really do feel like they beat Bandai at their own game. I have to say, when it comes to this, the articulation is actually quite better. And again, I'm not really trying to be judgmental or anything. This is just a pretty good job for Playmates, honestly. I just have to say. So let's move on to the next thing I like about this figure. Now, the next thing I like about this figure is detail. Now, I say detail is better than paint job because it is almost tied, but let me make clear that obviously paint job is going to be next. And this is probably the first time in a while that all three pros are above average. There isn't two pros above average and one that's average. They're all above average. So I had a really tough decision of deciding which was better when it came to this figure, whether it was paint job or a detail. I'll explain later once I get into actual paint job itself. But the reason why I chose detail ahead of paint job is because you could just see many individual markings here that are very, you can see the fur. I like how it shows like, sheds of the fur in different areas more than others. You got these lines that resemble, of course, the fur within itself. Stuff like that. I really do like that. Facial details, all right. It's pretty all right. I don't see any reason why it's fantastic. I like the scars here on the chest here. That's really nice. Detail, of course, on the axe is pretty good, with the lines here resembling, of course, this is supposed to be Godzilla's spines, but it's actually really well done, and you really see this all over the body, where you have the individual finger details here, like I said, chest details, feet details right over here. It's really well done with the details. So, like I said, let's move on to the next thing I like about this figure. Now, the next thing I like about this figure has to be the paint job, of course, as I stated many times earlier. The reason why I chose detail over paint job is because overall, this figure really just has two primary colors. So I can't really say it has a bunch of booming colors there, or maybe a booming color there. It really only has two, and that is brown and gray. Really brown and black, I guess you could say, because it's not really gray, it's more of a black. But of course, you could say, well, you got the colors here with the orange eyes and the red mouth, but that isn't anything too big, and also the blue spine here, but that isn't really anything too big. And you really get this idea that this is actually very, very cool. You just see this all over the place, and I really do like it, honestly. I don't know, you just look at this and you could tell that it was really, really well done. Because I don't know what to say. I feel like overall the paint job was really well done, because it was just two colors, but there's also nice shadings too, in case you didn't notice. I like the shading in between the brown and the blue for the spine that's attached to his axe. I like the slight shading you see in between the more blackish chest and the more brownish gut. And you also really see that too here. It's a mix of brown and black. The brown is more resembling of the head, but when it comes to near the face itself, the nose, the eyes, it's more black with pretty decent shading that's not really that noticeable. in a bad way. So I really have to give credit for Playmates for doing a good job on this. But like I said, let's move on to the cons of this figure. Now, when it comes to the cons of this figure, I have two really small nitpicks, but I guess if I were to choose which nitpick was bigger of a nitpick, then the first one would have to be the size in between the chest and the head. I feel like the head and the chest, there is not really enough room for a neck. You see how like it's almost like pretty much attached? From the front view, you don't really notice it as much, but from the side view, it looks kind of strange. I'm not saying make a long giraffe neck or anything like that. I'm just saying maybe make the neck a little bit further apart from the chest. It looks like it's practically a part of the chest, the head itself. I mean, you could tell that, right? How it's like there's barely any space in between the chest. And probably because it's the chest that's too big. Maybe not the fault of the neck. Maybe it's just that the chest was built too big. But that's aside from the point. That's my bigger nitpick. The smaller nitpick, which is so small, I really don't want to even say this because it's kind of stupid to say, but I guess you could say that the articulated ball joints are a little bit too noticeable. But the reason why I don't want to give that as a bigger con is because I'm thankful enough that this actually has the kind of articulation I would like to see more with Bandai's figures. You know what I mean? So I don't really want to discredit that because the articulation on this is excellent. So it seems silly for me to really go after something like that. They could have done a little bit better of a job covering up, but that's just such a small nitpick, and I think we can all agree. So without further ado, I'd rate this figure a 9.4 out of 10. Let me just say I only have a few Playmates in my collection, but that is pretty damn good for any Playmates figure that I've reviewed. I really, I mean, overall, I looked at the other Playmates figures that came out along with this, and they all look the same in terms of Playmates. I'm not a big Playmates fan. I don't really think the company's good at making figures. I do respect the fact that, you know, they're meant to be cheap but still pretty decent toys. But overall, when you compare them to Bandai stuff like that, they're not really good figures. But in this case, this is the kind of stuff. This is probably one of the only Playmates figures I have that beats Bandai at their own game. And I do have to be fair and give Playmates credit for that. So like I said, I gave it a 9.4 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this review. I definitely recommend you get this if you haven't, whether it's the one with the axe or not. I don't really care. Personally, I'd recommend the axe because it has a little bit more of a battle-like vibe to it. But either way, hope you enjoyed this review. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys later, and bye-bye.